entrepreneur is defined as a person that organizes and operates business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risk. I'm really honored to bring a friend of mine. This guy went from being a doorman to building $1 million company at 19 years old. He went on to start an incubator, and from there, he went on to join a VC firm called Harlem Capital. That firm has since raised their second fund of $134 million, and I'm really honored to have a relationship with this guy because he is an absolute beast. He really embodies this definition of entrepreneur, and I'm honored to have this conversation with him, and I'm happy that you all get to learn from him tonight as well. Let's introduce Mr. John Henry. John, you've been running it up for a minute, bro.
Thank you, man.
When I met you, you were on IG going crazy, right? And you were telling these stories and like really inspiring everybody. And then you kind of went silent after raising $25 million to build Loop. And I'll let you talk about what Loop is. But I think, you know, entrepreneurship is a little bit glamorized at times though. It's hard as fuck. What made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a good question. To some extent, I feel uncomfortable with the guise and the perception that comes with 25 million this, 40 million that. I'm just a kid from the hood of Washington Heights, who's born of Dominican parents that immigrated here illegally, whom had no place in this society. Mm-hmm. And if it were for the will of some in office now and formerly, wouldn't have been here to begin with. And so you tell me, growing up well below poverty line, I'm the youngest of four. We grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Heights. And in that room, we had a full-size bed, which is where my sister slept. My oldest bro got the top bunk, which that was the envy of my life, was like the top bunk. Yeah. And then in the bottom bunk, I split the bottom bunk with my brother. Mm-hmm. That's where I come from.
Yeah, yeah.
New York in the 90s, mm-hmm. where shit wasn't cute. Mm-hmm. And we wasn't talking about raising VC.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship was not a guy in a fucking suit.
Yeah.
It was my mom in the park selling super soakers. Mm-hmm. She was a super soaker lady. And you know what her marketing strategy was? She would give me water balloons, I would run around the park and peg them at kids, mm-hmm. and then they would chase me and I would run all around the park and run them in front of my mom's super soaker stand.
Activations.
Activation, baby. And then she'd sell a few guns and my pops was a presser and a dry cleaner, mm-hmm. making 40 cents a garment in damn near sweatshop-like conditions, mm-hmm. pressing shirts, clothes, pants, all that. That's where I come from. At one point, I said that with shame. Now I say that as a great source of pride.
Yeah.
That's where I come from.
I love that. So I really hear that like you didn't become an entrepreneur, it's who you are.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of hip hop analogies tonight. I feel like Kendrick because K-Dot said good kid, mad city. Mm-hmm. And so my oldest brother was old enough to get caught up in street stuff and my mom always tried to shelter us from it. So what do you do when you're perceptive to all the different life paths that life has in store for you? But you can make your own decisions. Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurship, in my definition, is the creative rearrangement of that which is already there. Mm. You'll be surprised if you go out to the streets of the D and you just look at things through a different lens. You rearrange creatively. Notice, it doesn't say go and get more shit. It says the creative rearrangement of that which is already there for your desired outcome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I was running my dry cleaner, I can't believe I ran a fucking dry cleaner. You believe that?
Yeah.
Knew nothing about no clothes, no nothing. And by the way, at some point, I did hustle my way into the film and TV industry, mm-hmm. just to make a cognitive connection for you all about how it was able to take off. I got onto set of a movie And that moved, because one of the residents in the building where I was doorman, I was telling everybody. So again, the creative rearrangement, I'm just using all the residents in this building now as potential distribution. One guy says, yo, look, I work in film and TV. I'm gonna introduce you, I'm gonna take you on set of this movie. If you get it, you're gonna be okay for a long time. I went onto that set. That first film account of ours ended up being The Wolf of Wall Street. And he picked me up that night at 11 p.m. after my shift ended. And I met Leonardo and I met Scorsese, but most importantly, I met the wardrobe supervisor that night. And I gave I completely bombed that shit. I gave him my business card. He said, all right, John Henry, maybe I'm gonna give you a shot. He called me 3 months later. I was bragging on my boys, yo, I'm gonna clean Leo's clothes, and they was ragging on me because they never called. And he called me many months later and he said, yo, John, you're in luck because I can find absolutely nobody else that is willing to wake up at 3 in the morning to come grab my shit. There came my first business lesson. You see how business lessons come in real life. This is, remember, we talked about the technicalization of the terms. That right there was segmentation. There's a gargantuan market that is dry cleaning. Everyone did everything. But here was an underserved customer who had no choice but to entrust the garments to an 18-year-old kid who had never done this shit before. And I did that first order with them. I netted 12 G's, I bought my first whip, and then I got off the subway, and then we did Boardwalk Empire, Law & Order, Person of Interest, White Collar, maybe Spider-Man 2, you name it. We did all of that shit. Now, I just hot potatoed my way through that business. When you read that I sold my business, I was very thankful that some motherfucker bought that shit from me because it was very near collapse just about every day. It's just like, might get a client, might lose a client, might this, might that, people calling in, calling out, there was a day I woke up, I was bleeding from my nose. I was so stressed because I wasn't gonna make payroll that day. After I sold that, I realized some of you guys are placing the full weight of your expectations on the little seedling of your idea or your venture that you're working on today. I learned over time that not every venture you work on is gonna show you everything you need to learn. You understand? From that first venture, I learned how to knock on fucking doors and sell. And I learned, okay, bet, I'm probably not gonna have to do that type of sales again, but that's what this was meant to teach me. And I went and then I learned a little bit from the incubator. And you're gonna go on and your body of work is gonna develop your acumen, is gonna develop your vision for what you go and do. And it's gonna set you up for the next stage in your career, which is how I got to Loop.
We're building the largest Black-owned barbershop franchise in the United States.
Say it with your chest, man.
That's what we're building.
There you go.
And in order to do that, you need capital. 90% of the capital or more is controlled by white people. You've had to raise substantial capital from mostly white men to build the value you're looking to create. And you have had to assimilate in certain circumstances. Or have you, right? How do you navigate trying to build what you're trying to build, create substantial value in an authentic way, but you're having to get it from folks that don't understand what you had to go through?
Well, but there's a reason when you say, yo, John, what song do you want to come on to? I chose Renegade. Because I've never been afraid to say what's on my mind at any given time of day, because I'm a renegade. Never been afraid to talk about anything. Anything? I had to hustle my back to the, nah, what's up? But you keep, we're gonna get into the raising, but I don't wanna go there yet because there's too much emphasis on that, so I'm gonna take it back again. Like, it's important to establish. I was walking around Harlem, knocking on motherfuckers' doors, asking them to use my dry cleaner. I didn't even have a real fucking dry cleaner. I had my mentor that was in Flatbush, which by the way, was an hour train ride from the A down to 14th Street and then the L out to Bushwick. Mm-hmm. And you know who was lugging the fucking dirty clothes to the subway? Me. Mm-hmm. Knocking on doors, getting people to give me their dirty laundry, bringing it down and across. And then the next day when it was clean, leaving word, grabbing the fucking clothes and bringing it back. Mm-hmm. I don't venture don't even come close to the difficulty that we overcome on the daily.
No question.
All it is just a creative rearrangement of your understanding of, these technical terms. I feel like business jargon is effectively whitewashed and made to seem more complex, like product market fit and, what's your financials, There's even a difference is, by the way, having raised a fund, if you say finance, immediately they put you in a bucket. If you say finance, well, now you're speaking my language, But all this shit, we already know. I already learned this shit way back when. It just was under different terms. You understand? You're already learning this shit today under different terms. So when you come across the terms, it's all meant to, perhaps not intentionally, but the byproduct, intentionally or unintentionally, is obfuscation. Mm-hmm. Motherfuckers thrive in obscurity, but they call it complexity. So then people that have the privilege and the means to get the classic training can navigate that world. We're already navigating it. And if we can marry the technical piece to the work that we're already doing, you can unlock doors. So, just to put a button on it, that's how I learned product market fit. I wanted to take the less traveled path. I wanted a difficult path. I prayed to God that one day, I said, God, please, I was always conscious. I always prayed for the problems. I said, a lot of motherfuckers out here want it sweet, God. Get me the problems. Get me the problems that come with the dream that I'm chasing. And if I have the strength to deal with those problems, then I'll know that I'm deserving of the rewards. Mm-hmm. And so when you say it had to assimilate, maybe, but I've kept it a fucking buck the whole time. Mm-hmm. I could say that with my chest.
Yeah. I only know a few entrepreneurs that are black, right? That have raised bread and built businesses and have maintained being their authentic selves. Melissa Butler, right? Delane Parnell, Dave Salvant, Song Ron, yourself, and me, right? Raised $1 million for a barbershop. You're a college dropout. You know what I mean? Like, same. You know what I mean? Like, I cut hair for 20 years. So I get it, but at the same time, it's like, fuck, bro. Like, facts. You talked about praying to God to want to, praying to God for the problems. You talked about in your day-to-day now, you're a problem finder. Talk to me about what that looks like. Talk to me a bit about Loop. Explain what Loop is, and talk to me about your day-to-day and how you become a problem finder building a 77-person company.
Well, this is easily answered by a Jay-Z line. Hov said, there's much bigger issues in the world, I know, but first I gotta take care of the world, I know. Remember we were talking about, your body of work builds your acumen. So when I started a fund, I learned about the power of capital at scale. But my whole life I'll be building businesses for the hoods that I came from. And so I became aware that insurance today is priced predominantly based on your personal financial situation. And today, those with the least to insure pay the most. Mm-hmm. The way that the insurance, and by the way, financial services system as a whole has evolved is that those with the most to protect pay the least. And because insurance is regulated and all this stuff is public, I'll give you an example to make it concrete. Today, in Michigan, if you have a DUI, we're talking about car insurance, if you have a DUI and 2 speeding tickets, but you live in a wealthy zip code, you pay less for the same coverage than someone with a completely clean record that lives in a low-income zip code. And I thought, well, goddamn, isn't that America in a nutshell? Mm-hmm. You can be privileged and reckless and get a bigger pass because our system penalizes you for being poor. So we have some, and I won't get super into the technology piece, but we have some fucking awesome technology that effectively we use historical crash data. We take all the publicly reported crash data and we use that as our basis for understanding where the risk is. And we conducted a very interesting experiment. It turns out, we know this statistically to be true, that when you take affluent neighborhoods and lower income neighborhoods, they have just about the same probability of you being involved in a car crash. But people are paying sometimes 2 times as much for the same coverage. So why do I touch on this? Well, you can build a business in the incumbent's blind spots. Mm-hmm. This is business that Progressive doesn't want, that Geico doesn't want, that State Farm doesn't want. They don't even compete for it. That's why it's so highly priced. So Loop, we are a vertically integrated insurance company. I'm not a quoting engine. I'm not a fucking broker. Mm-hmm. We're the whole insurance company. We're reinsured. We got $30 million in the bank to pay for claims. We got $20 million in the bank to run the business, another $10 million in debt. I learned from Harlem Capital how to raise money. I learned from my dry cleaner how to sell, and I learned from my incubator how to brand. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you may find that all of your body of work leads you up to one pinnacle moment where that's your real swing.
Yeah.
This is our real swing.
Yeah. So confidence, I've learned confidence is incredibly important, not only just in life, you know, and building a company and getting people to come work with you, work for you, help you build what you're building. You've had all these experiences. Talk to me about confidence equaling competence, or kind of how do you continue to carry that doing the things that you don't know how to do so well?
Yeah, it's a profound question because really the only difference between when you're on a hot streak and when you're cold is your confidence. When you see Curry pulling up, you know he can sink the 3. Well, Curry's a bad example because he's very accurate, but like a regular player, let's take Clay, no disrespect Clay, but when Clay's missing, layup, you're getting blocked, getting dunked on, your confidence is suffering. But the only difference between that Clay and when Clay is a splash bro is confidence. And that is one element of this game that I think is highly underrated. It is very under-discussed, and it is misunderstood. Now, here's a delicate line. Sometimes I use confidence as my defense mechanism for dealing with my insecurities. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when I feel like I can't, when I feel like the task is way too damn big, when I'm over my head, I say I'm the greatest fucking founder of all time, like that type of shit. But that's a different shape than the shape of being grounded in your purpose. That shape, right, there's a shape of shame, there's a shape of bravado, and then there's a shape of being grounded. And what I've learned is that hip hop teaches us, you know, like you got like Tekashi 6ix9ine saying, I'm the king of New York. Motherfucker, you is not the king of nothing. Yeah. But I understand hip hop normalized this using ego and confidence as a way to shield you from all of the obstacles that are out there. From all of this, statistically, all of us are highly improbable to make it, statistically. But you drive yourself crazy and you'll be reading all the blogs and shit if you're listening to the statistics. And so my relationship with confidence has been one of, you know, understanding how to use it, understanding when I'm not confident, when I'm not coming from a confident place, people can smell it. My team, I have 80 employees today. You know, I got a board of directors and, you know, they have mad different life experiences. And I really only got one black investor, like major investor. Mm-hmm. I got some angels, like my homies, like, you know, the guys from Squire and stuff. But what do you do when you're operating in this world where, remember, I pray to God for these problems. And on this life path comes being misunderstood. It comes being one of the few. It comes with all these variables. And how do you preserve your confidence? Again, it's why I chose Renegade, because Hope says, how do you rate music that thugs but nothing relate to it? Mm-hmm. I help them see their way through it, not you. So in our position, how do we go and build businesses where it's not for, a lot of times, the people that are stewarding capital? Mm-hmm. How do you preserve your confidence in that kind of arrangement?
Yeah, for us, it's been challenging, right? You've got this customer that frequents our barbershops, you know, much more frequently than everyone else. We cut all textures of hair, for example, right? But you've got black men that frequent our shop once a week, once every 2 weeks, right? Whereas white guys come every 4 to 6 weeks. And, you know, there's not one black barbershop franchise that has national scale. And I'm hiring all these folks, and I'm trying to hire folks that can cut all textures of hair. I'm hiring a white guy here, I'm hiring a black guy here, I'm hiring a black woman here. We want to be able to, like, represent everybody. And I'm finding that, like, you know, we need to really just focus on what we do best, mm-hmm. which is cut black men's hair at scale. You know, it's just tough having to hire people, fire people, bring homies on, you know what I mean? And then as we grow and build shit like this, and we're growing, not everybody can come with you, right, on this journey. How have you been able to navigate that, right? And these 80 people that you've hired, I know you've hired some homies. I know you've had to fire some homies.
Yeah, I mean, in our businesses early on, we're gonna hire those close to us. We're gonna hire friends, we're gonna hire family, we're gonna hire, you know, those nuances are uniquely, we over-index for those realities in our businesses. One of my closest friends was with me at Loop, and I did have to let him go, and I cried that day. Mm-hmm. Cried about it, but we did like grown men. I invited him, and we had a fucking old-fashioned, and we talked about it, and he understood. Your real homies will understand.
Yeah.
And you know, to put the button on it, my homie talked me through it, and he said, John, if you mess up your wealth play, your legacy building play, because you were afraid to have a hard conversation, would you be able to live with yourself? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had to cut my own brother from my company. Mm. And I was like, fuck, I want nothing more than to keep my bro. I want nothing more than to keep my homie. But you compound that, and I realized I had 10 homies working at the company. Mm-hmm. And in today's market where you need to contract and be more financially conservative, to me, it felt like a disservice to the broader mission if I didn't develop the toughness to have a hard conversation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you guys as CEOs need to develop the toughness to have a hard conversation.
Yeah. How many entrepreneurs, by round of applause, do we have in this room right now? A lot of people. That's damn near everybody. Yeah. My favorite part of Shop Talk is when we get to engage with the audience and let the audience ask questions. That's what this really is all about. Us giving access to our community. Do we have questions?
How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
As an entrepreneur myself,
what's your name?
Samuel Moody. I own Sorry I Was Trapped. It's a clothing brand.
Cool.
I'm familiar with that brand.
So me being an entrepreneur myself, I hear all the money you've made and all the money you've produced. What's the biggest loss you take?
I don't listen to anyone in business that hasn't lost more money than me. I've lost way more money than I've made. And I've made terms with the fact that the first decade, perhaps two, is gonna be a money-losing experience. And I love the late, great Nip, but I disagree with this concept, all money in, no money out. It's impossible. Money out, to some extent, is the price of your education in business. Now, there's gonna be different ends of the risk spectrum. I am closer to what you might call a fucking cowboy. I risk it all at any time because I don't come from anything. So going back to square one is like base level for me. But let me put this into concrete terms. When I made my first chunk of money when I sold my business, I didn't keep much. I negotiated a bad deal because what I didn't know, that based on how I sold the business, I did what's called an asset purchase agreement. So I sold the most valuable pieces, but I kept the liabilities. So therefore, when I sold the business, I had to pay debt. I was in a 10-year lease. I had to buy out the lease. I had to just clean up the mess that I had made because I said I was hot potato in the business. And then at the end, it's fucking Uncle Sam. And I delayed paying him as long as I could. And then it's Mama Dukes. So now I break her off, felt good to do. Some months later, I realized when my mom asked me for money again, that the money that I had given them, and it was not a very significant sum, but surely more than we had seen before, my mom was out of money again. And I said, okay, well, fuck. I don't really got that much more money. And my mom said, mijo, she was like, she don't speak English, but she was like, you sold this company and you got nothing to show for it. And that fucking stung. All right, bet. The next time I made some money, we're talking, I had 70 grand in the bank. I was protecting that shit like my life depended on it. But this time I said, all right, bet. I feel like going broke is an inevitability. It's just a matter of what you go broke on. And this time I decided that I would go broke buying an asset. Mm-hmm. So I closed my eyes and I bought a building. I didn't know how to operate it. This is own stories. I got my ass kicked for 3 years. But today, I bought that building for $600,000. That building recently I sold for $1.3 million. I regret selling that building. But the reason I sold the building, here's the nuance of business. It's not always what it seems on paper. I sold it for 1.3, okay, bet. I put some into it, okay, bet. So that did decrease my net gains. But the thing is, I put too much into it. And at the rate at which it was gonna cash flow and return my investment that I put into the building was gonna take me damn near 10 years. So I said, all right, bet. They call it a recap. Let me recapitalize. Let me flip this building, because you're not gonna be married to any asset. You're only gonna be married to your long-term wealth building play. And I decided that in this moment, because you have some old heads that say, oh, you should never sell. Never say never. You just evaluate the situation. I regret selling to some extent, but in that moment, I had to recap. And when I recapped, I got my 400 grand back. And by the way, that same 400 grand, I went and I bought my mom a house with it. Creative rearrangement. Now, to bring it back to my mom, how did I ever think that given someone who, we came from poverty, how did I ever think that giving them a lump sum of cash was a solution? It's not gonna be. It's gonna feel good, but easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
But now, she's got a home to her name. There's gonna be plays where I lost a lot, to some extent, a good amount of money and time in that play. But you're just gonna follow the money trail and make these bets. And I've always looked at making bets as the way that you learn.
Yeah.
So whenever you wanna get into a new venture, endeavor to be comfortable putting at risk a certain amount of capital that you're comfortable losing. And even though you may lose 5 grand on that particular bet, you got the learnings to go make $500,000. Hope that helps.
That's a great answer.
Name Artavis, brand Sheesh Ohana. Sheesh. And yeah, I just wanted to ask the question, as someone that is an entrepreneur and in tech and on this pursuit for success, right? How do you stay present instead of focusing so much on, wanting to be successful so badly? Like, I don't want to look up and be 40 chasing after some goal and I didn't really be present in the struggle, like enjoying the struggle, right? So what helped you be present?
Have you ever been in a fight?
Yes.
Bare knuckle brawl?
Yes.
Are you present in that moment?
Yeah.
You got no choice but to be, right?
True.
Running a company is like being in a high-speed car or a fucking bare knuckle brawl, where at every moment, if you let your guard down, you will get clocked. Or you may die. So presence, when you're locked in, when you're in it, is task after task after task after task. And there may be some element of, you're always looking to the next milestone, but in your actual operating right now, you are present in the daily tasks that come about. And I use the fight analogy because it's physiological, it's visceral, it's real time.
Yes.
If someone comes at you like, yo, square up, you're not gonna be thinking, well, is this product market fit of this? Nah. You're just gonna be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, business has always been a visceral sport where I've learned to override that which I learned cerebrally and just go with instinctive decisions, even if I'm wrong. Because at some point I would go to my mentor for every hard decision that I had, and then I realized I'm actually outsourcing my judgment. I'd rather actually make my own decision and get it wrong than get it right, but someone else gave me the judgment call. And I started doing that at 19. So if you get comfortable being wrong and you do it frequently, eventually it builds your acumen.
Yeah.
And then you stay very present.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Got a couple over here.
My name is David Woods. I own a for-profit business, a print company, S-Way Printing, and a nonprofit in Jordan, Detroit. We mentor the youth, we feed the homeless, we do a lot of great things. I started my business when I was 14 years old, so everything has just been sacrifice, experience, just trying to figure it out. But the thing is, with entrepreneurs, we go through a lot of mental health trauma, and what do you do to be able to heal that? And the second thing too, right? Like, when do you get time to be able to develop other streams of ideas and other companies to be more educated? Like, what do you do? Like, because it'd be hard getting outside of your business, the walls, because you're so secure in supporting your baby. It's like birthing a child.
Yeah. You know, I was just talking with my coach about this. You know, Black communities and oppressed communities, we have a different relationship with trauma and shame than other communities. And in the very recent past, I made a bet with Loops Capital that I took an L on. And when I took an L on that and I had to discuss it with my board and my investors, I noticed that I brought a shame with it. I was ashamed. And when you're ashamed, which is associated with mental health, right? You bring a certain energy to it. Well, the thing is that I had to. But shame means I am bad. Is different from the decision was bad. And it wasn't until I saw someone, you know, like one of my white homies, CEO friends, like he made a fucked up call that was way bigger than mine, and he was like, yeah, fuck that shit up, it was crazy. I was like, really? That, like, it actually taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. My sense of self-worth should not be tied to whether or not I made the right or wrong call. So we extrapolate that to mental health as a whole, and I think because we have the tremendous pressure of our community on our shoulders as we build our business, we place a lot of judgment from ourselves, on ourselves, to make every call right. And I'm learning as a very, very near past, like I'm talking like the last 60 days for me, I've been learning to decouple that which I do from that which I am.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man.
All
What's
right,
your
good.
name?
Thank you for making this possible. My name is Jay Davis. I'm the founder and CEO. What up, Bass? Good to see you, my
What's up,
friend.
Jay?
Founder and CEO of JD Financial, the only Black-owned mortgage brokerage in Michigan and second in the United States.
Wow.
So, a lot of work. All right, so my question is about capacity. So I'm looking at trying to get into 15 more states here by 23, 24. And right now in Michigan, Texas, and Florida in November, trying to see, you know, what characters or qualities do you look for when you are trying to bring a person on board?
Man, I've been learning a lot about this particular topic lately. As I said, we have 80 employees. I probably have hired maybe 200 people in my career as a whole, and maybe 150 of those have been in the last 12 months. And I do a lot of the recruiting my damn self as CEO. I just believe that keeping your pulse on who's coming into your company is very important. I have made a lot of mistakes here. I have, and I'm still developing my thesis, but my early thesis was they need pure heart. You do get to the point, particularly where you're at, where you're now looking at beginning to scale an operation, and there is more discernment and just experience that's fucking required, just real experience. You know, like I realize like it's tough to level someone up. Like sometimes a 10-year experience like, it's just, you can't hire for that to some extent. Like, you need that experience. And I realized, since our resources are finite, I don't really want to have everybody learning on our dime. Like, you need to figure out where it's okay to have someone learning on your dime and where it's not. And there are some roles in your company that are higher leverage than others. And so when I realized was like, I had an entire team and an entire management row, everybody was learning on my dime, like this recipe for disaster. So I learned, okay, these roles at this level, high leverage, they impact a lot of team members and they interact across the organization with other teams. I need those to have the proper experience. But then I swung too far on the end of this pendulum and I got buttoned up motherfuckers that was always trying to tell me the stats. And what I found, and I learned this from Song at Squire, was, at least in our particular context, it is a very specific experience to be and have worked at a venture-backed company. It's not like working at a large market cap, where they're growing 5-6% a year, and so therefore your expectations and pressures are in alignment with that growth rate. But in a venture-backed co, you're growing 50, 100%, sometimes 200% year over year. And so therefore, you need the malleability, the adaptability, the judgment, and the comfort with chaos, and that's a very specific type of person. So the sweet spot for us has been now people whom vision and values-wise, that's number one for us. If you don't fuck with our values, it's not gonna work here, period. But then after that, at least at the management level, I need you to have worked at a venture-backed company. And I need that at my C-suite level, at my VP level. Beyond that, I place the discretion in them to build their teams how they want. And so that has been some learnings that we've gotten over School of Hard Knocks over the last 12 months. I think it will be helpful for you. If you look for other franchise-type models that have grown rapidly, just go on LinkedIn and fucking poach them. And one concrete tip, the best hires that I've made in this digital era where everything's remote, I go fly and see these people. Like, are you willing to put in $500-600 for a flight, $200 for a cheap hotel, and like go meet with them, shake their hand and say, I flew here for you specifically. And the risk is you look thirsty, potentially if delivered the wrong way, but the upside is you get exactly who you want. And I've done that, and I've probably missed more times than I've landed, but for the one person that I did land in that capacity is worth every miss. So talent is the name of the game at your stage, and I highly recommend going at the pursuit of all costs at the best people.
Hello, thank you for being here. My name's Rashida. I have two questions for you. So the first question, you're a lister, and I think when you're a lister, a lot of times you're searching for that external validation of
100%.
like, I need to make this list or I need to be this. Once you made the list, what became your goal? What became your fulfillment? That's the first question. Second question is, all the people in this room will not be raising money. Some people will be bootstrapping. What advice do you have for them?
Great questions. I wanted to make that list so bad.
Me too.
That is one of the best core competencies that the Forbes ecosystem has, is they build a lot of equity into the list. And then they build commercialization around that list. It's probably one of their biggest revenue drivers at the moment. Conferences, tickets, all the stuff surrounding the list. I can tell you this, when I made the list, I was fucking pumped, but then I didn't feel any different. Which, by the way, was the same as when I got my first TechCrunch piece. And by the way, which is the same as when I slipped my mom 20 G's. And so on and so on and so on. And so at various increments throughout your journey, you'll see that which you were chasing, not gonna make you feel that much different. When I bought this Rollie, it's 2017, I had $5,500 in my pocket, and I had a trip to Miami planned that day, and I was window shopping. And I put it on, I was like, damn, this shit looks good. And I was like, how much is it? He's like, $5 grand. I was like, what year was it made? He said, 93, that's my birthday. I said, all right, bet, I'm gonna buy it. I went to Miami with a Rolex and $500. And by the way, when my building was upside down, I had to pawn this. And then I bought it back. And then that happened one more time, like a year later. But now it's with me for life, and I'm gonna pass it on to my kids. Point is, I done got a lot of external validation that I could swear was the pinnacle for me at some point. And it's not there. And it doesn't bring you much more fulfillment. And now, to get a layer even deeper, I at one point thought my greatest fulfillment was to put on for my family, and then even for the culture, and then even for the hood, as I like to say. But even that, there are even limits to those as your sense of motivation. You come from a deeper purpose still when you're doing that which you feel called to do. And when you're doing that which you would do regardless of the external validation and the fruits. And somewhere between being a fucking monk and being a billionaire, the confluence of those, I feel like, will bring you much fulfillment. And then for the bootstrappers, man, I love bootstrapping. Honestly, it will show you something that none of the VC-backed founders will find. And that is a respect for revenue. Mm-hmm. And I can say that, by the way, as someone whom bootstrapped my first company, no outside funding, and now having raised money, you'll be surprised the type of shit that we decide. We'll be like, I took a flight one day that was $4,000. I would never fucking do that before. $4,000 for a flight? Because I booked it last minute, because like it jades your decision making and it taints your respect for the dollar. So again, pendulum, but where you can, if you can find the balance to develop an understanding of how to raise capital if you raise it, but importantly, the most important lesson bootstrappers learn, which is a respect for the dollar. That to me is the cornerstone truly of business. And that which enables you to grow something big. And if you can merge them, it's super powerful. But if you could pick one, pick bootstrap.
Yeah. These were all great questions. I hope you all had a good time. Yeah? You had a good time? Hope y'all learned a thing or two. Yeah? Okay. John Henry, man. You did not disappoint, my brother.
Thank you, guys, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Listen. Look at this.
Appreciate y'all.